Hi everyone. So today we're going to learn about calculating slope. And when you are calculating slope, the letter m will be used as a variable to represent that it is slope. So when calculating rate of change of a relationship is constant, any segment of its graph has the same steepness. The constant rate of change is called slope of the line, which is what we did last week. Last week, I taught you how to find rate of change. Slope is the same exact thing. Slope is just another word used to say find the rate of change. So the way I taught you to find your rate of change was by finding the change in y values and then dividing it by the change in x values. That's exactly what you can do to find slope, but if you have a graph, it's easy to find the slope on a graph by counting what we call the rise and the run. So the slope of a line is the ratio of the change in y values, which we call the rise because you're finding out your change in y is how much you're moving on the y-axis. So that's how much you go up for a segment of the graph to the corresponding changes in the x values, which we call the run. Because if you think about the way you rise and run in life, rising means that you're standing up, or going up, which is what your y values are. And when you run across, which is your x values. So instead of having to take points and subtract the y values, subtract the x values, what we can do is we can take 2 points on the graph and we can count how much we have to rise and run to get to the other point. So to get from point, I'll call this A, to point B, I would have to rise up 2, and then I would have to move to the right 3, which means my slope here would be 2/3, because you're doing your rise over your run, your change in your y value over your change in the x value. All right, so let's do practice with a couple of finding the slope by just counting your rise and your run. So the graph shows the rate at which water is leaking from a tank. The slope of the line gives the leaking rate in gallons per minute. Find the slope of the line. So we're given 2 points on this graph. So we want to use those points to count my rise and my run. So before you start counting, you want to make sure that your x and y axis, you take notice to how the scale is. So if I look at my x-axis, I notice they are counting by 1. So that means every movement would be a value of 1. And then the same thing on my y-axis, it is counting by 1s. So to get from my point A to point B, I would have to rise up 1, 2, 3. And then I would turn and I would have to run 1, 2, 3, 4. So my rise is 3, my run is 4, which means my slope is 3/4 because it's your rise, your change in y, over your run, which is your change in the x. All right, so let's look at question number 2. So number 2, I have this graph. They didn't give me any points labeled, so I just want to pick 2 points that are directly on the graph, and they have to be on a corner so you can easily count where what your rise and run is. So I'm going to pick this point here, which is the point -1, 2. I'm going to label it so you know what I'm looking at. And then I'm going to pick the point right here, which is the point 1, -2. So I'm going to count my rise and my run. So I like to just draw my triangle so it makes it easier for me to see. So to get from point 1, -2 to -1, 2, I have to rise up 1, 2, 3, 4. But now I'm moving to the left 2 places Because I'm moving to the left, that means that it would be negative. Just like if you were counting down, that would be a negative. So my rise is 4, my run is -2, and then I want to simplify this, so this could simplify to -2, so my slope is equal to -2. If you picked 2 different points, you would still get the same slope. Like if you decided to pick the origin and -1, 2, you would still get 2 over -1, which is -2. So no matter what points you use on the graph, you should get the same value if you simplify. All right, so let's look at question number 3. So number 3, I'm going to pick this point here, which is the point 2, 3. And I'm going to use my origin this time because I notice it's going directly through the origin, which is the point 0, 0. So I want to count my rise and my run. So I have to rise 1, 2, 3, and then I have to run 2. Because I'm moving to the right, it's positive. Because I moved up, it's positive. And then my slope is my rise over run, because it's my change in y over my change in x. So my slope is 3 over 2. You never want to change your slope to a mixed number if it's improper, because when we start learning how to graph, you need to have a numerator and a denominator so you have that rise and run. Okay, so what I would like you to do now is I would like you to do the 3 try yourself problems, questions 4, 5, and 6. You can either do them on a piece of paper and snap a picture and send that to me. I also have a Google slide that is available that you can type your answers in. However you feel more comfortable doing your work is the way to do it. And then we'll spend a couple more days after this just making sure that we know how to find the slope of a line from a graph. Any questions at all? Just send me a message and I will get right back to you. Bye.